All right, in this video we are going to solve the following equation um, for theta on the interval from 0 to 2 pi. So cosine theta minus 0.15 equals 0. So on this equation we are going to do the same thing that we were doing in the previous videos, and that is to isolate the trigonometric function by itself on one side of the equation. So here I can do that by just adding 0.15 to both sides of the equation. And so on the left hand side I get cosine theta, on the right side I get 0.15. Okay, so I have isolated cosine on one side of the equation. Unfortunately, right, the number over on the right side is not on the one of the special cosine for one of the special angles on the unit circle, right? So if you look, it's not going to be equal to any of these numbers on here. So what that means is when you get something like that, then you are going to have to use your calculator in order to do that, okay? All right, so and you're going to have to use the inverse cosine function. All right, so take the inverse cosine of 0.15. All right, so let's do that. On Desmos, I have to do it as arc cosine 0.15. And they want the answer in radians, right? So make sure I am in radians. Yes, I am. Okay, and so I get, let's just say to two decimal places, 1.42. All right, so if you've watched the previous videos, you'll know a lot of times we will get the same answer, right? Or two answers. Here we only have one of those, but there actually is two answers for this. All right, so the first thing is that you have to remember is that for inverse cosine, it's going to give you answers that are in the range from 0 to pi. So inverse cosine will give you answers that are up here. All right. From 0 to pi. And notice, right, that the signs, right, of angles up here in quadrant 1, right, the cosine is going to be positive. And then over here in quadrant 2, the cosine is going to be negative, okay? So our value for theta was 0.15, okay? And that's a positive number. So that angle, right, theta, is going to be somewhere up here, okay? And so the thing is that for cosine, there is another answer that's down here. In the fourth quadrant, down here, we know that the cosine is positive. And in quadrant 3, we know that the cosine is negative. All right, so there is another answer that's down here in the fourth quadrant. Okay? And so how are we going to get that value? Okay? Remember, in this problem, we want all the answers from 0 to 2 pi. Okay, so for cosine, if the value is positive, like it is here, you're going to have an answer in quadrant 1, and then another one down here in quadrant 4. Well, what happens is that this angle right here, this angle in here is going to be a negative angle, right? But it's going to have the same absolute value as this angle right here. All right, so that means that this angle down here, if it's positive, right, is going to be 2 pi minus whatever you got for theta, okay? So going around 2 pi, right, but then subtracting off theta will give you that second answer for cosine, okay? Now, this is going to be different for sine and tangent, so you have to be very careful about that in these problems, okay? So it's 2 pi minus theta. So what we'll need to do is do 2 pi minus this original answer that we got here. So if we do that, 2 pi minus arc cosine 0.15, it's going to give you that second answer, which is 4.86 here. And that is approximately 4.86 to 2 decimal places. Okay, and so that is what you're going to need to do on these cosine problems where you're using your calculator, right? If you get an answer for whatever the answer that you get for the inverse cosine, right? When you plug it into your calculator, the other answer is going to be 2 pi minus whatever you get, and that's how you get both answers in this problem. Okay, all right, that is it for this one.